All right, let's talk about one of the biggest questions out there when it comes to knowledge. How do you really know if you've actually learned something?
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You're sitting in a lecture, or maybe you're reading a book, and everything just clicks. It makes perfect sense. You're feeling good, you're confident, and then someone asks you to explain it. Or you have to actually use that information. And poof, it's just gone. Your mind is a total blank. So what's going on there? Why does that happen?
Okay, so to get to the bottom of that whole vanishing act, we first need to look at what we think learning is supposed to feel like. See, most of us have this deep down gut feeling about what the signs of learning are, and it pretty much always boils down to one single thing: comfort. Yeah, we just kind of assume that if the information feels easy, if it's going down smooth, it seems clear, it feels familiar, then, hey, we must have learned it, right? That sense of ease feels just like competence. When you're looking over your notes and it's totally effortless, your brain goes, yep, nailed it. This is locked in.
And this trap shows up everywhere. You read your notes, and they just seem so obvious. You listen to a really slick explanation, and you're nodding along the whole time thinking, oh yeah, I totally get this. You see the same stuff a second time, and that feeling of familiarity is just so comforting. We mistake that easy feeling, that reduced effort, for actual improvement. But that right there is where the great illusion really kicks in.
So let's pull back the curtain on this whole thing. Why is that feeling of comfort so incredibly misleading? Well, it's because our brains get tricked really easily into mixing up two completely different ways of knowing something. There's actually a name for this. It's called cognitive fluency. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's that smooth, fluent, easy feeling you get when your brain processes information it's seen before. And man, it feels good. It feels like you're a master. But here's the catch. Fluency is not the same as learning. It's really just your brain being a little more efficient with something that looks familiar.
And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the illusion. You've got recognition on one side and possession on the other. Recognition is totally passive. It's just your brain going, oh yeah, I've seen that before. It needs a little nudge, an external cue, like your notes or the slide right in front of you. But possession? That's active. It doesn't need any cues. It's the difference between seeing the Mona Lisa and going, I know that painting, versus being able to sketch it from memory and explain why it's so famous.
And that's what makes this illusion so dang powerful. As long as you've got those supports, the book is open, you've got the video playing, the diagram is right there, your mind feels super capable. But the problem is, it can't tell the difference between what it knows and the help it's getting. It basically thinks being supported is the same as being knowledgeable.
Okay, so how does all of this lead to that dreaded moment of collapse? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. It's what happens when that warm, comfortable feeling of knowing runs headfirst into the cold, hard reality of being put on the spot.
And the sequence of events is almost always identical. First, you get exposed to the material. Everything is supported by notes or a teacher, so it feels easy. Step 2, that ease builds this false sense of confidence. You start thinking, I've got this. But then, step 3, the constraints hit. The notes are gone, the teacher's not there, all the supports are taken away. And that's when you get to the collapse. Your brain reaches for that idea and finds absolutely nothing, just empty space, because the real structure was never actually there.
Now, this is so important to understand. You didn't forget it. That feeling of your mind going blank isn't a memory failure, not at all. It's actually the very first time your knowledge was truly tested without any help. And what did that test reveal? It revealed that a solid, stable structure of knowledge just hadn't been built yet.
So, if we know that comfort is a trap, then what does real learning look like? What should we be aiming for? Well, we need a better way to think about it, a new mental model. And the idea of scaffolding is perfect for this.
This quote really says it all. Learning isn't just about what you know when you've got all your notes and books around you. Real learning is what's left over when all of that support is taken away. It's what remains when nothing is holding you up.
And this table just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have the illusion, which relies on that external support. How does it feel? Easy, comfortable, fluent. What does it depend on? Notes, cues, examples? And when does it show up? Only when those cues are present. But real learning, the internal structure, that feels totally different. It often feels like effort, like a struggle. It's difficult because you're actually constructing something. It depends on building real, integrated connections in your brain. And when is it revealed? Only when all those external cues are gone.
Let's break that down even further. When you're just passively reviewing things, you're left with impressions. Think of them like temporary footprints in the sand. They create familiarity, but they're not permanent. Real learning, on the other hand, builds a structure. It's an organized, interconnected web of ideas. And that structure gives you something much more powerful than familiarity. It gives you what's called generative capacity, which is just a fancy way of saying you can actually use the information. You can explain it, you can apply it, you can rebuild it from scratch all on your own. That is what learning is.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it means we have to completely rethink our relationship with one of the most common feelings we experience when we're trying to learn.
You know that feeling of struggle, that feeling of effort, when things just aren't clicking easily? That is not a sign that you are failing. In fact, it's the exact opposite. That is the feeling of your brain doing the hard work. It's the feeling of construction. That difficulty is literally the sound of real learning happening. It's your signal that you are moving past simple recognition and into the territory of true possession.
And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. The next time you sit down to learn something, try not to just ask yourself, do I get this right now? Ask a different question. Ask, what am I trying to build? Because at the end of the day, what you build is the only thing that's going to be left standing when all the supports are gone.